challenge is if you gained 15 minutes a day, will you do what you've always done with those 15 minutes? I've read a lot about the intersection of complexity and simplicity. I've heard people who've said, those things that are easy aren't simple. Simple can be complex. I think there's other ways to go about looking at it. At least there are for me. And for me, I like to divide things into threes. 3 is a number I can remember. There are 3 points to a triangle. Once the list of things gets beyond 3, I start to worry, am I going to remember them all? And so I have a whole set of 3s. The way that I approach my work, my life, the way that I approach getting things done always comes down to 3. And so let me share one of these over the next video as you start to consider time and the things that you do in time, not with time, but in time. And so I'll introduce these and then let me spend a little bit of time over this video dissecting it, diving down a little bit deeper. So the 3 that I want to look at of what you can be doing in time, you can be keeping up, you can be getting ahead, or you can be taking off. Now look, there's gonna be a few of you out there who wanna debate that there's other things that I can do in time. For now, why don't you just make a list? And in that list, there's kind of a multi-dimensionality to it. And what I do is down one side, I write those 3. So the first one is keep up. The second one, get ahead. The third one, time off. And then across the horizon of that page, maybe you want to think about these in columns, that's when I start to write time periods. So maybe I could do 0 to 30 days, 30 to 90 days, 90 to 180 days, 180 to 365. And that's what I'd like you to be thinking about. And in the rest of this video, start to dissect, really take a look at your world, not just your work, not just your life, but your world. And start to think to yourself, where and how am I keeping up? How am I getting ahead? And how am I taking time off? All right, so that first one of what you can do in time. Now remember, this is not what you do with time. I've got a whole other video series just on that. What you can do in time, the first one is to keep up. Now, years ago, from 2000 until 2006, I used to teach a program called Getting Things Done. You may have heard of the book by David Allen. And what I taught then, and what I got really good at helping people do, was to keep up. We taught a lot of ways to get your email organized, your to-do lists handled, your desk space, your office space organized. Now this idea of keeping up, hugely important. And if you were out in front of me in a live group and I was talking to, a few hundred or 1,000 of you, I'd say, hey, I want everyone to raise their hand if they're spending time every day, right, with time, if they're spending time every day trying to keep up with everything. And a bunch of you would raise your hands. So I got a couple of tips. I got a couple of techniques that you can use when it comes to keeping up. And the first one has to do with lists, has to do with writing things down, but not just making any lists. Maybe not even making lists the way you used to. What I teach people to do is to get their work down to what I call the verbs of the day. Your verbs of the day. I've only got 5 of them, and there's 5 things that I could be doing in a day. Now this is a day when I'm making money. This is a day when I'm working. So I've got other verbs for days when I'm not working, right? When I'm not making money. But if I'm gonna make money today, if I'm going to do things with my time that will push that dial forward, if I'm gonna keep up, there's really just about 5 things that I could be doing. I could be calling, I could be drafting, I could be emailing, I could be reviewing, or I could be meeting. Now, that's it from my perspective. So what I do to keep up with everything is as the world comes at me, as I get email, as I receive phone calls, when Jody comes in and we have our one-to-one every morning where we talk about what we're going to be doing that day, how we're going to serve the Get Momentum community, how we're going to serve our clients, what we're going to do for the company. And what we do is I divide everything into one of those 5 verbs. Now, I did a long time ago when I went from a paper-based organizer to a digital organizer. I've always, this is going back to about 1993, I have always organized myself by verbs. So let's pretend I'm going through my email, I'm going through my phone list of incoming calls, I'm looking across my desk, I open up my calendar, I look out at the next 7, 14, 20 days. And what I'm looking for are the phone calls that I can make, the articles, blog posts, podcasts I can draft, the emails that I can send or respond to, the documents that I can review, and the people that I can meet with. Now, by the way, that one about meeting, it's a little bit tricky because in order to get a meeting, and sometimes even to do the meeting, but for sure to follow up with the meeting, I'll be calling, drafting, and emailing. So I hope you see how all of this starts to divide itself out. So when you're thinking of keeping up, now I've got a lot of ideas on email management, meeting management. I've got a lot of ideas on resiliency, about how you can bounce back after something has hit you pretty hard. How do you keep up when times are tough? But if you just take this tip, this one idea from this short video, divide your work into the verbs of the day. Again, my 5. I could be calling or drafting, I could be emailing or reviewing, or I could be meeting. How about you? Drop a line in the comment area below this video and let me know. So when you're going about your planning for tomorrow, you're ending the day today, maybe you're ending a Saturday or a Sunday and you forecast out into that week. What I need you to do is to sit down in a comfortable chair, in a couch, maybe even on the floor if that's comfortable for you. I'd suggest you close your eyes and you kind of let yourself feel your breathing. And this is something that I know a lot of the leaders that I work with who are constantly under pressure. It's kind of like in an exercise class where the aerobics teacher, the spin instructor, whoever it is up in front, you'll hear them say from time to time, breathe. I think we need to do that more during the day, especially for what I'm about to share with you. So when you're considering what you could do with time, you've been suddenly given an hour, or maybe that's scheduled on your calendar. I remember one of the senior traders that I worked with who had just been moved from New York to London. From about 5 p.m. till about 9 p.m. on Sunday night. That was his prep time. And that's where he was taking stock, literally, he was taking stock of everything that he wanted to land on Monday morning with. So in this segment, let me talk a little bit about getting ahead. Getting ahead to me means that I'm working on what's not due yet, but I already know what that is. And I've got 2 specific ways of doing this. You'll read about them both in the book called Get Momentum. If you want to download part of that book, just jump over to the website getmomentum.com/book. Getting ahead, it means that you're working in the future. And I do this with 2 different tactics. Number 1, 30-30. So I spend 30 minutes a day and I'm thinking about, I'm processing, researching, working on, I'm developing any project that is not due for 30 or more days away. So the 30-30 rule for me, it's made up of, I open up my calendar, I look at my to-do list, I may even scan my email inbox. And what I do is I choose. I say, hey, Jason, 30 or more. 30 days from now, what will you wish you had spent a little bit more time thinking about, researching, wondering about, or working on? I tell you, every time I ask myself this question, I get an answer. And that answer is generally in the form of an event or a project. So I spend those 30 minutes, okay, it usually takes me 2 to 5 minutes to pick what that thing is. I spend those 25 to 28 minutes my head down, my email turned off, my phone on do not disturb, my door closed. I ask everyone around me, hey, I need this time to work 30-30. And what's the second one? Well, 30-30, 30 minutes on something that's 30 days or more away, 90-90. Now the 90-90 rule, you've probably figured this out, right? 90-minute block on something that's not due, or the milestone is not due for 90 or more days away. Now this one takes a little bit more planning. And to be very transparent, on my calendar, if you look at the next 1 to 2 weeks, I've generally got my 90-90s planned. Because what I don't want to do is show up and kind of look through my to-do list and react or respond. This is calculated. This is really well thought out. Getting ahead means that you're working on the future. You're working in the future. You're working for the future. And the two ways that I know of doing it, one's called 30-30, one's called 90-90. You can read about both of these in the book called Get Momentum. All right, so then there's that third one, which is time off. And one of the traps that I see a lot of the managers and leaders that I work with falling into is they lie to themselves. And so before I tell you more about this, what I want you to ask yourself is, what is the lie, what is the untruth that you tell yourself about time off? What is time off to you? Now, before I tell you what this lie is, I just want you to be thinking to yourself, when are you most engaged? When are you inspired? When do you lose time? Recently, I was doing some research on this idea of flow. Whether you're in flow in your personal life, maybe you practice a sport or you lose yourself in your art, maybe with your family, maybe then before you know it, time has gone by and you realize that you were so in that you didn't even realize the tick-tock of the clock was happening. And one of the pieces of research that I've really fallen in love with is this idea that flow happens when you're in a state of, if I had a axis going up and down, and this axis is challenge, and then the bottom axis is skill. And when the challenge is high and you have the skills to match it, that's, according to the research, when flow happens. Okay, what's this lie that I'm talking about? The lie that people tell themselves is that they want time to do nothing. I wish I had time to do nothing. Jason, don't you ever do nothing? This is something that a lot of people who spend time with me will ask, whether it's one of our 3-day leadership offsite retreats, whether it's a day-long seminar, or even in a keynote. Because I think what it is the way that I carry myself, the way that I present what this material, what Get Momentum can do for you. The way that I present it, people think that I'm always going and that I'm always rushing. And what I have to remind you of is there's this idea of what I call time off. Time off, absolutely 100%. Time off does not mean doing nothing. This is not doing nothing. This is me fully engaged. Jody and I are in our 3rd day on the mountain. We have a 7-day window where we're here skiing on the mountain. And there have been times over these past, I skied full day Monday, full day Tuesday, and we're just about to lunchtime today. There have been days when I've been so in it that time disappeared. Not doing nothing. This is time off. So I invite you to ask yourself, what would time off look, sound, and feel like? Before you answer that question, go through that process. When are you in flow? When are you fully engaged? I'm going to postulate, I'll give the hypothesis. You in flow is not when you're doing nothing. You in flow is doing what you would do if you had more time off.